Good evening. It's Thursday, April 28th, 2016. I'm your host, Rebecca Paganini. Welcome to the Local Live. Village of Mamaroneck passes their 2016-2017 budget. We have some updates from the town of Mamaroneck. Those details coming up. Rhinebeck softball team is in the spotlight this week in LMC TV's Sports Play of the Week. Another historic building in our community has been sold. We have more on that story and more in the media. And join us for our live roundtable discussion with Larchmont's new mayor, Lorraine Walsh.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is the Local Live.
On April 25th, the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees passed their 2016-2017 budget, covering the fiscal year running from June 1st, 2016 through May 31st, 2017. The total budget is approximately $34.9 million, unchanged from the tentative budget submitted in March. Facing a 0.328% property tax cap, the village budget came in under the limit by $67. This was achieved in part by the increases in total property values within the village, compensating for a 2.8% increase in the village budget. Because the village was able to remain under the cap, the board closed the hearing and did not need to adopt a new local law to exceed the tax levy cap. Taxes will go up, on average, by about 1/3%. At the April 20th Town of Mamaroneck Council meeting, it was announced that the position of Deputy Town Clerk has been filled. Town Clerk Christina Battaglia recommended and the Council appointed Laura DeMiro to fill the position of Deputy Town Clerk as well as the Information Records Management Clerk. Also discussed at the meeting was a proposal to install parking meters on Baldwin Avenue near Memorial Park, 8-metered spots, and the rest 2-hour parking. Commuters parking in those spots have caused problems for residents in the area. The public hearing will be set for May 4th. Next up, we have Abriel St. Ange bringing us the news articles that are trending this week in our local online media.
It has recently been announced that the Larchmont Movie House building is being put on the market. The theater has been around since the 1930s, and according to the Aloha Journal-Review, the property will not be renewing their lease in September. To read more, go to thepatch.com. There's still time, but tickets are going fast to attend Mamaroneck School Foundation Spring Benefit on April 30th. This year, they are going Hollywood to celebrate 20 years of enhancing district schools. Come for a fun evening of dinner, dancing, and auction, all for a great cause. For more information and to purchase tickets, you can visit www.mamaroneckschoolsfoundation.org. Also on April 30th, the Village of Mamaroneck is hosting its annual Clean and Green Day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. All volunteers will get tools, cleanup bags, and gloves. You can choose your cleanup site from a list of neighborhood parks and waterways. For more information about Clean and Green Day, visit mamaroneckgreen.org. On April 21st, American music legend Prince died at his home in Chassahan, Minnesota. The cause of death is still unknown and won't be released for another week or two. It was announced this past Saturday that Prince's remains have been cremated and a small group of his loved ones said goodbye to the legend. For more information on this story, you can visit www.cnn.com. Well, that's it for this week. I'm Abriel St. Ange, signing off.
We have our local trivia question up next, and don't go anywhere because after that, we'll have the new mayor of the Village of Larchmont live in our roundtable discussion.
It seems like everything you read in the newspapers these days, the headlines anyway, are all about national politics. It's certainly been conversation around many dinner tables and even in our classrooms. But local government is where democracy is most direct and tangible in the average person's everyday life, from education to making the streets safe, clean, and approving new zoning and issuing building permits. And our roundtable tonight is happy to welcome Lorraine Walsh, who is the new mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming out and spending a little time with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You have been subject in 2 articles recently, one in the Journal News and one in the Mamaroneck Review most
Correct.
recently. So some of the questions have already been asked, but maybe we can get into some other stuff.
Okay.
And as usual, I want to remind our viewers that you are invited to ask questions yourself. You can call us, you can email your question, or you can tweet it in, and we will ask Lorraine and hopefully get you an answer, or at least a promise of a response at some point. Your schooling, you went to SUNY Binghamton
Yes.
and majored in,
Majored in geology
which prepared you for,
to be a geologist.
were you ever?
I was, actually, yes.
Oh, okay.
For the first 2 years after receiving my degree, I worked as an environmental geologist with an engineering company on Long Island.
Oh.
And at that company, we were doing groundwater contamination investigations. And companies like pharmaceutical companies and some of the industrial parks on Long Island,
Yeah.
had been caught dumping things in the back, back lot by the county or the state, and then they were ordered to do a remediation project, and we would come in and start that process for them.
And then you also got a graduate degree in education from Hunter College.
Correct, yes.
Were you thinking of becoming an educator?
It took me a while. After I started as the environmental geologist, I kind of, at that age, I got bored living on Long Island. As a young single woman, I wanted to be in New York City. So there's not too much work for geologists in New York City, believe it or not. So I went into science book publishing, and I became an acquisitions editor for a very large professional level and graduate level science book publisher. And while I was there, you start working a lot with educators, and the idea kind of grew in my mind that I wanted to go into science teaching.
And now you own your own company.
I do. I own a landscape design company. So, so kids, whatever you study in college, don't worry, you'll get where you need to go and where you want to go.
Your company is called Bee's Knees?
Yes.
How did you name it?
I watch a lot of old movies, and I know the phrase, that's the bee's knees, which means
Okay.
a really good thing. And then I also thought bees carry pollen on the backs of their knees, or supposedly. And so, they help the garden, they help make flowers grow. So I came up with
While
the
I
name.
was doing some research for tonight's interview, I was also looking up the name Lorraine. And I find out it's a subject of at least 2 songs, the Sweet Lorraine.
Sweet Lorraine.
And
know the other.
The other one, I wrote it down and I didn't bring it with me, but it's Paul Simon's song. And Lorraine is a good name. It means very bright, very sharp, and very structured.
That
Like, don't cross
I
me.
am very structured. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it comes from an area in France, in southeastern France, I think, or
Right.
northeastern France. The
But-
Alsace-Lorraine area.
Alsace-Lorraine, right. But I'm not French.
No.
None. No French.
Now, you've been a Larchmont resident for 19 years?
Like 18 years. I think this summer
Okay.
is 18 years.
And a trustee for the last 5 years.
Correct.
And now you want to be mayor.
I am mayor.
Well, that's right. You were actually you were.
I was elected in March 15th, and I
Right.
was sworn in on April 4th.
Okay.
So yes, now I am mayor, but it is a process. I am still becoming mayor because there's a lot to learn. It's very different from being a trustee.
Well, we'll get into that, but we
Okay.
already have a question from
Oh,
a
okay.
viewer who asks, as a business owner, what do you think is the main reason businesses are closing in Larchmont, at least from the point of view of that person who's watching?
Yeah. Well, my business, is different than I think what they're referring to, because I have the office is out of my home and I go out to my clients and do my work in that way. I don't have a retail shop. I've heard varying reasons, and I'm sure there's some truth in all of them. And one of them is, the rents are perhaps high when it comes to the profitability of some of the, types of retail operations that you can have in a small village. Another thing is the internet. A lot of people are purchasing goods over the internet, so there's not as much demand for local businesses to supply products. And I think also it's the landlords themselves who, some of them, are holding out for corporate clients, et cetera. And then their shops remain empty while they wait for what they consider to be the perfect tenant.
Do you have strategies, or do the trustees as a whole, does the board have strategies to start to attract more businesses?
Well,
I imagine the streetscape was certainly one.
I think, it was a trying process, but it's been quite successfully completed, thankfully. And I think that the best that we can do is make the village attractive physically. We work closely with the chamber, which in the past year and a half has really become quite invigorated. So myself and Trustee Finelli go to most of their meetings. And, any time that they have ideas where they want to put on an event, which draws people to Larchmont and sort of shows off the possibilities and shows off the shops and the restaurants, we try to support that as much as we can.
Chris Eberhard, the reporter of the Journal News, asked you why you ran for mayor, and you told him there was a confluence of events.
Yes.
What happened altogether?
After 5 years as trustee, I felt like I really had learned a lot, and I was kind of ready for a new challenge. I have twins who are now 19 years old, and they were leaving for college. They're in their first year of college. So I knew that, with them out of the house, I was going to have, a hole to, space, time, and the mental space to put towards some kind of new adventure. And the final piece is that Mayor McAndrews chose not to run for a third term. And that opened up the possibility. The other trustees on the board, as well as the members of the Larchmont Democratic Party, all told me that they would support my candidacy.
Now, you're a registered Democrat.
I am, yeah.
But Larchmont is the kind of funny. There's never been like an opposition in the recent years.
I believe it's 8 to 10 years since there's been an opposition. We have.
Does that just mean that everybody gets along so well?
We love each other very much.
And there are common goals, common objectives?
I think that's the key, is that it's a small village, and we all know sort of what we want, and we have common goals. And the bigger issues that you find in national or even state politics don't really apply when you're talking about the 1 square mile village.
Yeah. Well, there are some mandates that I'm sure you'd like to be reimbursed for.
Always.
I know Senator Latimer put out a publication recently about some of the bills that he's trying to push.
Yeah.
That would relieve you of some of the mandates.
Yes. That would really help, because when it comes time to do the budget, which we've just done, such a large percentage of our expense is either contractual obligations like salaries, but health insurance, pension costs, and other costs that are mandated by the state. The amount of the budget that we get to sort of play around with is actually pretty small. And those are actually the things that people consider to be the most important parts, like paving the roads, taking care of infrastructure, the things that really impact people's day-to-day lives and their comfort in the village. So,
you also told Eberhard that, the Mamaroneck Review reporter, Perro, you told him, he asked you about what would might be different between your administration and Ann McAndrews. And you said basically not much.
No, like I said, if you read back interviews with, I think, every mayoral candidate all the way back, we all have pretty much the same goal. You know, we want to maintain the level of service that our residents expect and deserve. We want to try to keep the costs in line. We want to run the village as efficiently as we can. Those are all of our goals. You know, we all go about it maybe in slightly different ways. We focus on different things because it's, you know, the timing is different. Different projects come up, different issues, different parts of the village need help versus others. But I think it's a fairly consistent approach that we've taken, you know, from board to board to board. Yeah.
And you also have a new administrator who is not too long on the job now.
No, he's not even 1 year on the job. I think he started in early June of last year. That's the first time the village of Larchmont has ever had an administrator. I believe, I haven't fact-checked it, but I believe we were the last municipality in Westchester County without an administrator or manager. This was, you know, really essential.
Now, that is justified even though, as you said, it's a small municipality, having an administrator?
Absolutely.
Because things are just so complicated, or?
Things are complicated. We have an $18 million general fund budget. You know, we have a lot of employees. We have a police department, a fire department, public works, recreation. We have a water department. We are our own water company.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on. And what an administrator provides is that sort of that point person to which all the department heads report. And he or she is in charge of making sure that each of the departments is running efficiently, is doing what they need to do. You know, and just makes sure that the day-to-day operations are functioning the way they need to. It was moving along okay before without an administrator, but once you start to take a close look, you could see that there were a lot of areas that had a lot of room for improvement, a lot of efficiencies that could be brought on board, and it takes to have somebody there who's a professional, who's there day in, day out. That's his job.
And another of the efficiencies, as I read, is you'd like to bring more technology into the village. But before you answer that, we have another question. This time a viewer wants to know about the impact of the sewer tax on residents.
Okay. So we've just passed that sewer. It's a sewer rent fee, and I believe it's 25 cents per unit of water use. So it's going to be a very minimal addition to your water bill, to the residents' water bill.
This is a new?
This is new.
Okay.
I believe that the town of Mamaroneck has also just recently passed one. I believe a lot of communities have passed them. One of the main reasons we passed it is that we are under an intermunicipal agreement with the county, who is under an order from the state to look at our sanitary sewer system. We have too much inflow. It's called inflow and infiltration into our sanitary sewer system.
That means that that waste is getting mixed in with rainwater?
Rainwater is getting into the waste system, and when it gets to the treatment plant, if there's a big rain event and there's a lot of water in the system, it's too much for the treatment plant to handle, and then raw sewage ends up getting dumped into the Sound.
Yeah.
So we're part of the New Rochelle Sewer District, so we, along with the town of Mamaroneck and the village of Pelham Manor and the city of New Rochelle, have joined together to do a sanitary sewer evaluation study, and that's part of this intermunicipal agreement with the county that we have to do this study. And it's going to cost us a few $100,000 for the study, and then the study requires that we address any certain issues that are brought to light. So we have some expenses coming in our sewer system.
And this tax is going to help defray some of those
Exactly.
expenses.
Or at least we can build it up and use it to pay off any bond debt that we may have to take on for larger projects.
Okay, thank you, viewer, for that question. And we have a few minutes left with the mayor of Larchmont, Lorraine Walsh, and now's the time to ask your question while she's still here. I imagine you're very available, though, in Village Hall.
Yes.
I think I read that As a trustee, you told the interviewer that you would sort of drop by here and there, but as a mayor, you're in every day?
I'm in at least 4 days a week. I've tried to take 1 day a week to take care of my own personal business. You know, I am the timing to start becoming being mayor is difficult with my business. This is my season.
Yes.
So that's like why I kind of winced when I sat down. I spent half the day today doing landscaping work, hurt my back.
Oh, dear.
I'm not 40 anymore. I can't do it. And then I spent the rest of the day at Village Hall. Some days I'm there all day from 8:30 to 6 o'clock, even past the time that Village Hall closes. And some days it's just a couple of hours. It really depends on what's going on and, you know, when I've scheduled my meetings. But I'm there a lot.
Okay, I promise you an opportunity to talk about new technology.
Right.
Let's get the bills online, or the utility bills, water bills.
Right. Up until this year, our water billing system was basically we had our water employees going around from house to house with an index card and a pencil, and reading the meters and writing it down, bringing them back to Village Hall. Somebody would then take those numbers, put them into, you know, sort of a simple spreadsheet, send it off somewhere. A bill got printed, sent back to us. Very inefficient system, very, very labor intensive. A lot of opportunities for the repetition of mistakes and input of mistakes. So that's one of the things that we've worked on. We've got a utility billing software. We're moving next to general ledger system. We also have a new building department software system and tax billing software. So, you know, it's a lot at one time, but once you start, you kind of realize that you have to bring all the pieces together so they can talk to each other. And,
So there's
yeah,
software that you want to introduce?
there is, yeah. So we've already purchased and contracted for it, and we're in the process of implementing all the different pieces of it.
It sounds like it's going to be much more efficient.
It will be more efficient.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hard thing to get done. But once on the other side, when we get to the other side, I'll be very happy. It'll be more efficient. The data retrieval will be a lot easier. Hopefully, we'll be able to have like a dummy terminal so that when realtors come in, they want to check the tax status on a property or if there are any outstanding permits on a property, they'll just be able to look it up. We won't have to be pulling records constantly. You know. Yeah.
We have another question that came in, but I'm going to reveal a little secret about
Okay.
television. It's on my prompter here, but it's backwards. It's like mirror image. So if the control room can fix that, I'll read the question. In the meantime, I've got to ask you about the moratorium.
Okay.
It is in effect. It's a
Right.
tear down moratorium, right?
It's on subdivisions and demolitions.
Okay.
Right, both.
Not on renovation in general.
Not on renovation in general, correct, yeah.
And you don't anticipate it lasting much past?
It's a 6-month moratorium,
Okay.
and it expires, I believe, July 15th is the either final day or the first day without a moratorium. And we hope not to have to extend it. It was never our plan to go beyond the 6 months. This is, you know, we don't believe that moratoriums are, you know, should be your constant status.
Right.
We wanted 6 months because we thought that's how long it would take to do a comprehensive zoning review and really have the time to go back and forth with the community and talk about potential changes, come to some sort of consensus, and then whether we can move ahead before the moratorium's over or, you know, directly right after, whatever that timing's going to be, we'll see. But we hired a planner actually before we even enacted the moratorium. And in the next couple of weeks, we should be ready for the next community meeting. We've already had one, and where we'll bring some of his preliminary ideas and sort of throw those around and see what's going to work.
All right, here's the question. Thank you, Control Room. Why was it necessary to raise taxes to meet the budget this year?
Just
Did
our
taxes ever go down, Lorraine?
I've never seen tax. Sometimes maybe there's a zero, you know, they don't raise, but
Yes.
I've never seen them go down. Our tax rate increase was 2.84% this year. The reason we did that is that just our contractual obligations, our salaries and all those expenses that we have no control over, we were going to be over, you know, we would have to raise taxes just to cover that. Plus, we want to be able to take care of the road repaving. We wanted to add some extra roads and get some more of that done. And we wanted to have those services. We didn't want to have a reduction in services. When we presented our budget, the preliminary budget, we laid it out for people. We can not invest in new technology. We can not invest in you know, new fire personnel or police personnel, maybe not pave a couple of roads. And these are the choices that we have to make because we can't cut on the, you know, certain expenses we just can't cut.
Do you find when you make the case that way that people understand and they
Yeah,
might grouse a little bit because they're paying a few dollars
Right.
more, but still they understand?
Right. I think so. I think when people actually come in and look at the budget and look at the numbers and see how careful we are, and I mean, we really are quite vigilant. We're quite stingy as well.
Do you believe, though, that there are economies that can still be realized?
There are some avenues for that. There are some opportunities for shared services. I know last year we went in on a contract with a couple of other municipalities for the road repaving, just to keep on that one. It didn't work out this year, but in other times we will. We have our the Joint Sanitation Commission. That's where we can realize some savings. We have our sanitation trucks, which the village owns its own trucks, and so does the town. And then we have a joint commission to pick up the trash. But they service our vehicles, our trash vehicles, because they have the facility there and we didn't, and it just made financial sense to share that. So there are opportunities where we can do that kind of work. Like on the SSES, we're going in with the other 3 municipalities who are under the same sort of order.
Right.
Because it made sense to only pay one person to do a whole system-wide study versus the 4 of us go out and, you know, do our own thing. So that's where we have avenues for that. And some of the efficiencies that I've been talking about in terms of the way the internals work don't necessarily allow for us to remove personnel, but they certainly allow for us to give personnel additional responsibilities. And down the road, that might either provide better service or prevent us from having to hire someone in a different capacity.
We have another question came
Okay,
in.
good.
If you can use one word to describe Larchmont, what would it be? I'll give you 2 words or a phrase.
Or a phrase?
Yes. You were quoted in the paper as saying you'd like to keep Larchmont great. It sounds a little Trumpian, but.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'll have to take that
But you
back.
didn't say again. You didn't say again.
I didn't say again.
No.
No. I can't even think of just one word. I mean, Larchmont is lovely. Larchmont is a great community.
Lovely is a good word.
Lovely is good. Yeah, it is.
There you have it, viewer. Lovely. I don't know that you've read this yet, but before we went on camera, I mentioned to you that the mayor of Rye City wrote a piece in the Rye Review where he said that Donald Trump may be somebody who could be elected president of the United States, but he would never be able to be elected mayor.
Right.
And some of the things he talked about was, could Trump ever deal with a room full of angry residents or opposing views strongly expressed by people, or
Right.
the ire of local bloggers and people who show up at meetings all the time.
Right.
Personalities on the board. Failure, when things don't work out right.
Right.
Could he ever admit mistakes? Are those lessons that you took away from 5 years as a trustee?
Yes, absolutely. When I agreed to become a trustee, I really had no concept of what I was actually agreeing to do. I don't think you know what it means until you get in there and you start to see how much the board works.
And you're purely voluntary.
We are purely
Larchmont,
voluntary.
yes.
There is no remuneration at all, no salary, stipend, no health insurance.
No limo.
Nothing, no
No.
limo. And you know, we were dealing really with the day-to-day operations of the village. We were dealing with personnel. We were dealing with capital projects. You know, things that take so much collaboration, cooperation. You have to be able to, you know, call up people all the time and get more information. You have to be able to take some people to task. There's so many things involved in that. But as far as like the board, I mean, you know, if I had, and we disagree sometimes, and we talk things through. If I turn to one of my board members and use some of the derogatory terms that have been used, you know, that would be outrageous. I mean, we'd never get anything done. The village would be at a complete standstill.
I'd love to talk to you about your take on national politics, but
Right.
that's a whole other show.
Yeah, we'd never finish.
Did you want to mention a few of the capital projects that you're working on?
We have many capital projects right now going on in the water department. That's sort of an area that had been somewhat, you know, I'm going to say neglected, but, you know, other things had taken priority. So we've just changed out almost every water meter in the village. And those are all now going to be automated read. They're read by radio frequency with an antenna on Village Hall. And we're also changing out right now, we're renovating the pump station, which is near the Cambium. You may have noticed we have 2 big water tanks up there on the hill next to the Cambium and a pump station. So we're working on the pump station now, and the water tanks are to follow. We're going to be taking those down and putting up one new one. So those are the water department projects. We also have, we're working on a renovation of Constitution Park. Now, the Larchmont 125, it is the 125th birthday, by the way, or anniversary, however you want to put it, of Larchmont this year in 2016. And there is a group called the Larchmont 125 who has been having events, and they have a fundraising arm. And they want a renovation of Constitution Park to be sort of the legacy project of the 125th. And so we resurrected a design that was done probably 6-7 years ago by Rivi Orr, and a landscape architect who donated her time and her design. And right now we're working on just sort of what we refer to as phase 1. It's the creation of a village green. So behind the gazebo in Constitution Park, we want to create a nice gently sloping village green, and we're hoping to have that ready to use by the Fall Arts Festival, which is also going to be a combination 125th birthday celebration. We'll also be having a parade, a costume parade, and a gala, and a couple of other events in the fall in anticipation of the birthday.
And I hope you invite LMC there to cover the event.
Of course
and
we will. Right.
show it out on our
Yes.
channels to all 3 communities.
I also want to let you know that on this Saturday at Village Hall, it's Drug Take Back Day from 10 to 2 o'clock. And I'll be there from 10 to 11 if anyone wants to come in and say hello or ask me a question. Anyone who has medications at home that they're no longer using, that have expired, et cetera, you bring them in and the police will take control of them. It's to keep them, it's 2 reasons. To keep them out of the water system. When you dump them down the toilet, et cetera, they end up in the water system. And they go into the sound, and that's very bad. But also, I think that we all know that there's a really a terrible increase in the use and the misuse of prescription drugs. And very often those come out of our very own medicine chests.
And this drug, you called it a give back?
Drug take back.
Take back.
Right.
It's the 30th.
It's the 30th.
Of April.
Saturday,
the
this
30th.
Saturday
Okay.
from 10 to 12 at Village Hall.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Where can I find a larch tree in Larchmont?
You can find a larch tree right in front of the police station. There is a very large one right smack dab, right behind the flagpole. You recognize a larch tree because it is one of only 2 deciduous conifers. And so in the wintertime, it looks like a dead pine tree. Sorry.
I knew that wouldn't stump you.
Yeah.
Lorraine, thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you
us.
very
And
much.
please come back again.
Thank you,
This
I
was
will.
delightful. And folks, stay tuned. We will be right back with our play of the week and the answer to our trivia question.
This week in sports, the Rhinebeck softball team was deadlocked with Tuckahoe in a game that went into extra innings. Finally, in the 10th, Rhinebeck Jackie DeSico came through with the big hit in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
The 2-2. In the air, deep right center, that will end it. Jackie DeSico with a walk-off. And the Panthers win it 2-1. How about that? Trailing 1-0, heading to the bottom of the 9th. They piece a run together. They get the runner in from second, and that's the ball game.
You're watching The Local Live.
The only news show on Larchmont and Mamaroneck on LMC TV.
Chloe is a beautiful Australian Shepherd cattle dog mix. Her unique blue and brown eyes will melt your heart. She's about 3 to 4 years old, and she came to Pet Rescue with 9 pups that have since been adopted. It's now her turn to find her forever happiness. To adopt Chloe or more dogs just like her, you can go to www.nypetrescue.org. Remember, if you'd like to keep us on the air, support our program by checking out our website at www.lmctv.org. We really appreciate any contribution. And we are always welcoming new volunteers and interns, so please send in your emails to thelocallive@lmctv.org. And join us. We love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching another episode of The Local Live. I'm Rebecca Paganini, and see you next week. Goodbye.
Go. Slow. Whoa.
Can the local live give my pet ostrich the power of human speech?
What? No. No, of course not.